more or less what I anticipated. The quote you were talking about, I'm sure we'll get to that in a second, but that's the one that's going to resonate most, with everybody. The couple revealing things for me was one, Treliving and his staff have started to go through, obviously, which I think we reported as well last week, that they're starting to go through the process of evaluating what options are going to be available to them this summer, what the makeup of the roster next season is going to look like. Obviously, getting down to business pretty quickly. But the other thing was that they haven't really gotten any further along with respect to both Tavares and Mitch Marner, contract discussion-wise, I should say. So obviously that's going to pick up. And Tree did say that Matthew Knies is a player they'd like to get done as soon as possible. Then he joked, obviously, term and money are two factors in it. But that was a little bit different in him acknowledging that they wanted to get Knies done right away versus, well, we're still going through the process of Tavares and Marner and other free agents. So some little nuggets here and there, some tidbits here and there, some takeaways. But overall, disappointment in the season, like some of the change, like the progression, like the fact that, they went from a first-round exit to a second-round exit. Obviously, there's been progress, but obviously there's also still work that needs to be done.
Without question, the major takeaway was sort of the quotes on Mitch Marner and John Tavares, very non-committal. But the key quote for me, as I referenced off the top, when you keep getting the same result, that's some DNA that needs to change. And again, very non-committal on Mitch Marner and John Tavares. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to know where that comment came from, where it was going. To me, not to read too much into stuff, you never know in this market, but it tells me Mitch Marner's not coming back. How did you interpret it?
Pretty much the same. We've talked about it, tweeted about it, wrote about it, all that stuff. That every sign and every indication that I've been given, anyway, is that Mitch is going to free agency. He hasn't closed the door on the Leafs, but he's going to go see what his options are. And I think the Leafs just want definitive clarity on that. If that's the case, they need to prepare significantly and realistically what the additional options are going to be. And that's what Tree also talked about today, whether it's from trades, whether it's free agency. You're not just going to pluck another 100-point player out of thin air. You've got to figure out exactly how you're going to replace that productivity and how you're going to add other elements of whoever you bring in that can alter the DNA of this club, as he said and alluded to. I think the more telling thing on Tavares is what JT said at the end last week of his exit interviews, that he's very optimistic they'll get something done. Now, does that mean it's 2 years at $6 million each? Is it $5 million? Is it 3 years? And if you add a little extra term, do you drop the overall value down to give them a little bit more flexibility moving forward cap-wise? Like there are some options that need to be figured out. And that's what they're trying to do right now. I do suspect in about a week, they're going to start to get down to the nitty gritty after they map everything out and plan it all out. But they've started the conversation with Knies' group. They've obviously had and started the conversation with pretty much all of their free agents. Once they go through their process, is what Treliving called it, then they'll get Nick to figuring out what they're going to do. The other interesting thing he said was, he was asked if there was, if he's going to guarantee that they're going to offer Mitch and Tavares a contract, and he said, no, we're going to go through the process and go from there. They may have a conversation with Mitch's camp and realize he's going to July 1 anyway. All right, well, here's the ballpark we're at. We'll talk when it comes. And they don't need to put in a formal offer, which, by the way, I know there were reports during the season that the Leafs presented an offer and he turned it down and this and that. I have not been given that indication. I've been told that there wasn't a formal offer presented. Now, they could have talked numbers and this and that, and sometimes it's semantics and the words get all jumbled and whatnot. But in terms of, here's an offer I'm presenting to you, that never happened, as far as I've been told from people close to that situation.
Yeah, the PR battle has been intriguing to watch all season long, and I thought a thing that stood out for me too was Treliving saying like there's two sides of things. Like Mitch would have to want to come back too, and I thought that was a really good question by Chris Johnson, talking about the fact that Mitch not once this season has come out and said he wants to return to Toronto, which I think is a big factor in this situation. But how many times did he reference critical moments in that press conference? Like, it was unique in the fact that it almost felt like Treliving understood, the media understood the fans, where everybody's at. Because he told me what I already knew, but the critical moments stood out for sure when it comes to the big moments in a series and this team being unable to rise up.
Yeah, and he said, for him, it wasn't necessarily the disappointment of Game 5 or the disappointment of Game 7. The biggest kick in the ass for him was what happened in Game 3. They were there, they had it, and it kind of fell apart. And I appreciate that, because everyone's pinpointing they sucked in Game 5 and they were crap in Game 7 towards the end and this and that. This could have been 3-0 in the series, and we could be having a whole different discussion right now. But obviously we're at where we're at. So we'll see kind of where things kind of evolve this season in terms of the planning and how they avoid getting knocked out in those critical moments, how they improve those types of situations. Obviously we'll have to wait and see, but that's what they're doing now. It's evaluating the process. Chief's going to have a say in the type of people they need. They talked about defense, how he likes the makeup of the defense. We'll obviously, again, see where things go. Will the entire decor be back? Will there be changes in the bottom 6? We'll get answers soon enough, but there's a lot of questions around this team. But the biggest takeaway in terms of that is his belief and his stance that they made significant improvements this season, which I agree with.
And to that point, he doubled down on Craig Berube, talked about how direct is the way they need to go. And all I wondered watching that press conference, how reactionary losing to Florida they were going to be moving forward. That's my wonder on July 1. Are they going to try to, entice more Florida Panthers to join the fold after last summer, and guys they brought in like Lorentz and OEL and Stolars, and the list goes on and on. What's next is my biggest question. And I think you always have to be careful of the copycat league because things are always evolving. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Roseau. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.